Eleanor never thought of herself as attractive, especially not at 72. At her age, she thought people didn't really see you that way anymore. You became someone's grandma, someone's neighbor, someone's sweet old friend at church. You wore soft sweaters, kept tissues in your sleeve, and got compliments on your blueberry muffins, not your smile. But something strange had started happening. People were drawn to her. Not in the way they once were in her 20s or 30s, when beauty was youth and confidence was skin deep. This was different, subtle, surprising. Men at the farmer's market lingered when she asked about tomatoes. A younger woman stopped her on the street just to say, "You have such a graceful way about you." Even her children's friends, grown adults now, often told her, "I hope I age like you." She thought it was a fluke, maybe even a little patronizing. But the more it happened, the more she began to realize this wasn't about looks. It was about the life she still chose to live. And without realizing it, she was doing things that many her age had let go, but that made her undeniably magnetic. One day, Eleanor sat down at her kitchen table with a cup of tea and wrote them out. 8 things she still did at 65 and beyond. That, without a doubt, made her incredibly attractive. No one. She maintained curiosity. Eleanor asked questions about everything. When her grandson talked about his coding class, she leaned in, not pretending to understand it all, but genuinely fascinated. She read news articles, checked out library books on topics she'd never explored before, and always had something new to talk about at dinner parties. People listened to her because she still cared to learn, and that made her vibrant. 2, she took care of her body, not to look younger, but to stay strong. Every morning, Eleanor stretched, not to stay thin, but to avoid stiffness. Twice a week, she walked to the park, and once a week, she swam at the community center. She didn't obsess over the scale or chase beauty trends, but she moved her body, drank her water, and treated herself with care. And people could see it in the way she carried herself. Upright, energetic, and alive. 3, she dressed like she mattered. Eleanor didn't wear sequins or designer clothes, but she took time with her appearance. She wore clothes that fit well, in colors that suited her, and always added a touch of something special. A scarf, a brooch, a spritz of her favorite lavender perfume. Not for others, for herself. Because she believed even at 72, she was still worth looking after. And people noticed. Because confidence in how you present yourself never goes out of style. She laughed, fully, deeply, and often. Eleanor laughed with her whole face. She didn't suppress it or laugh politely. She let joy move through her freely. At jokes, at herself, at the absurdities of life. People loved being around her because her laughter was contagious. It reminded them that age doesn't mean bitterness. It can mean freedom. It can mean delight. She stayed open. Eleanor didn't say things like, "That's not for me," or "I'm too old for that." She tried new foods. She listened to new music. When her neighbor invited her to a salsa class, she went, nervous but willing. She didn't let the world shrink around her just because she was getting older. And that openness made her magnetic. It drew people in, young and old alike. 6, she listened better than anyone. People told Eleanor things. Strangers, friends, family, they opened up to her. Because she listened. Not with one eye on her phone or a quick solution on her lips, but with patience, presence, compassion. That kind of listening is rare and beautiful and unforgettable. 7, she didn't complain all the time. Eleanor had aches. Her knees hurt when it rained. She missed her husband dearly. Life wasn't perfect, but she didn't wear her suffering like a badge. She didn't unload it on everyone she met. When she spoke of hard things, she did so with honesty, but also grace. That balance made her strength shine. People admired her resilience. They wanted to be near her because she made them feel hopeful, not heavy. 8, she loved herself exactly where she was. This was the hardest one. It had taken Eleanor decades. She used to look in the mirror and mourn the face she used to see. The tighter skin, the quicker smile, the legs that didn't ache when she climbed stairs. But one day, she looked at her reflection and whispered, "I still love you." Not despite the lines, but because of them. She had lived. She had survived heartbreak, raised children, buried loved ones, and learned the art of letting go. And through it all, she never lost herself. That kind of self-love is rare, and it radiates. Eleanor closed her notebook and smiled. She hadn't written it to teach anyone. She had written it to remind herself, beauty changes, but attraction, true attraction, comes from how we live. A week later, her friend Jane visited. Jane, sharp-tongued and glamorous even in her late 60s, leaned over her tea and said, "Ellie, I swear, every time I'm out with you, someone flirts with you." Eleanor laughed. "They don't flirt, they just respond." "To what?" Jane asked, raising an eyebrow. Eleanor thought for a moment, then said, "To joy, to presence, to someone who hasn't given up on life." And that was the truth. If you're over 65 and still curious, still laughing, still dressing like you matter, if you move your body, open your heart, listen well, and love yourself fiercely, people will see it. You won't just be attractive, you'll be unforgettable.